Hello students, it's Dr. Yu. Today we're going to learn about how to write a good cover letter. This is a continuation of our series on resume writing because of course you're going to have a resume. Almost every job requires one. But then you're going to learn to also be able to write a cover letter because many jobs are going to ask for one, and it's just good strategy to have a cover letter whenever you apply for a job. And we're going to talk about those reasons in this lecture segment. So, here's a little bit of a preview of what's going to happen today. First, we're going to talk about the purposes of cover letters, because a lot of people ask, why do I need to have one? The job posting doesn't require it, so why should I do one? That kind of thing. So we'll talk about the purposes of a cover letter. Then we're going to talk about some key principles. So these are going to be some overarching principles that I'll refer back to as we learn to write cover letters. And there'll be good things to remember as you do business writing, because this is even more formal business writing that we're doing with resumes. And then we're going to talk about some basics of business writing, because unlike resume writing, it has its own little language with resume speak. Now we're learning how to write business letters, because a cover letter is essentially a business letter. So we're going to have to learn some basics with just basic business writing. I know that was redundant, but okay. And then we'll move on from there. Now, let's start with the purposes of a cover letter. So why do we need to have one, and what's the value of having a cover letter, even when the job posting makes it optional? The first reason you want to have a cover letter is because it distinguishes you from other candidates. Here's the thing. A lot of candidates, if they're given the option of giving a cover letter and not giving a cover letter, they're going to choose not to do a cover letter. Why? Because it takes time. It takes time, it takes energy, it takes effort to be able to put a cover letter together that's effective and to personalize it as well. A lot of people are just like, I don't want to do that. Okay, so remember, if you want to get a job and you're applying in a pool of 50 people, you want to stand out in some way from the other 50 people. If most people are going to be lazy and they're going to take the easy way out, which is what most people will do, then an easy way to beat out like half the competition, if not more, is to do the thing that lazy people won't do. And that is actually write a cover letter and to personalize it as well. Because you'll have the really lazy people who just won't even do the cover letter. Then you'll have the somewhat lazy people, they're going to do a generic cover letter. And then you're going to have those few hardworking, good candidates. They're going to write a tailored cover letter to the position. And that's how you're going to distinguish yourself just on principle. Not even thinking about qualifications yet. So you absolutely want to do this. Also, the cover letter is a great way to distinguish yourself in terms of selling points, because now you get to actually state in plain English why it is that you are valuable. Next, the second reason you want to have a cover letter is sometimes job postings still require them. Now, the number varies from industry to industry. I remember reading that in tech, it's usually about 60% of jobs still ask for cover letters. So you'll see something like this in job postings. It'll say like required documents that allow a careful evaluation application or resume, and then they'll say cover letter, and then samples. And then some will even have start your cover letter with the sentence, and then like I'm your Django hero because blah, blah. Or the job posting might say something like, when you submit your resume, in your cover letter, say what your salary requirements are. Or in your cover letter, say, and then it'll say, they'll have a specific request of something that they want to know in the cover letter. So job postings actually do require them. Now, if you look at Monster, for example, and Indeed, you can see that with Indeed, you have the add cover letter option. So once again, lazy people will upload their resume, but they won't add the cover letter. So that's how you're going to distinguish yourself, by adding that there. And Monster also has the option of adding a cover letter. And once again, they say it is optional. Anytime I have an opportunity to sell myself, especially in plain English, in a narrative format, I'm going to take that opportunity to sell myself. I want the employer to know who I am, why I want what I want, what value I can bring to them. So regardless if it's optional or if it's required, you want to have one. Third, and this is a reason a lot of people don't think about, is the reason you want to have a cover letter is sometimes you might have issues in your resume. When we say issues in your resume, often people will have issues like a gap in work history. So remember, when you write your resume and you write your work history, you're supposed to account for at least your past 10 years of experience, of work experience. And if you have a gap in your work experience, there are ways to deal with those gaps in the resume. depending on what the reason for the gap is. But you can also use your cover letter as a way to explain the gap. So you can say, as you can see on my resume, I've done blah, 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 blah. And in between those two jobs, I went and worked for the Peace Corps or something. And then you can explain that little gap between the 2 years that you appeared to not have worked. You can also use it to explain if you want to make an argument that education should be substitutable for experience. So let's say it says that the job requires 5 years experience. You only have 3, but you have a master's degree. The cover letter is the place where you're going to argue that your master's degree should account for the experience required for this position. Because maybe your master's degree gave you some special training that would make you more experienced naturally. So the cover letter is the place to answer questions and to make arguments that normally don't fit in a resume, or they fit in a resume, but you want to make it really clear in the cover letter because it might be a very roundabout way that you address it in the resume. So the cover letter is actually a very tactical document. And then once again, if you need to address salary and all those things, the cover letter is the place where you're going to do that. Now, purpose number 4, and this is another good reason to have a cover letter. When you submit a cover letter to an ATS system with your resume, that gets counted in the keyword count. From what I've read, most ATS systems will count your cover letter towards your keyword count. So when they search your resume or they search database keywords, you're going to get those free keywords from the cover letter too. So I want to have a cover letter, if nothing else, to just get more keywords in, and so I can appear higher in the search results in the ATS systems when it's time to make a hiring decision or interviewing decision at least. So you definitely want to have a cover letter for those reasons. Next, let's talk about some key principles of cover letter. So before we get into actual cover letter writing per se, let's talk about some general principles that can always guide you with your writing. Principle number 1 is compliment, don't repeat your resume. This is big with cover letters. So the point of the cover letter isn't just to repeat everything on your resume. We can read your resume. We get that part. What the cover letter is supposed to do is address the gaps and tell the story of the resume, and to make things that I want to stand out on the resume very clear in the cover letter. So your selling points are going to be huge on the cover letter. That's essentially what you want to talk about in your cover letter, are your selling points. And then you're going to refer back to your resume to say, as you'll see on my resume, I have collectively 20 years experience doing X, Y, and Z. So you'll know that with this amount of experience, I'll be able to excel in this VP position because I'll know exactly how to handle clients, and I'll know exactly what to do with your products because I've worked with your product before. Okay, so I'm making the tie. So the cover letter is like the tie-in between the resume and the job. The cover letter puts it in clear English what the takeaways are from the resume and how they relate to the job that I'm applying to. So think of the cover letter as a bridge between the resume and the job posting in English. It's you facilitating that connection between the two things. But it's not just repeating. So you're not copying and pasting everything from your resume onto your cover letter. You're not copying and pasting your summary. Okay, a lot of people try to do that. No. It's supposed to be plain English, like as if you're talking to somebody. Here's why I'm qualified. Secondly, cover letters are lever letters. This is probably the principle I say the most often in class when I teach this to students. Cover letters are lever letters. What do you mean by lever letters? Think of a love letter, okay? So think of a love letter that, you used to write in middle school. I don't know if people write love letters anymore, if they like text them or something, or like they snap them, or I don't know. But see, back in the day, you used to write letters to each other, like when you're in middle school, preschool, whatever, and like you'd write in notebook paper and you'd fold it up all cute and stuff. At least girls would do this for me, I don't know. But they fold it all up and then they write a little letter to you and it's cute. Okay. Cover letters are like lover letters, not in the sense that you fold them up and make them cute and all that stuff, but they're like lover letters like this. A love letter is a very individualized document. Imagine a love letter that went like this. Dear whoever, I don't know your name. You're cute. And you're awesome. And you're amazing. And I'm cute too. Bye. Okay. Very broad, okay, whatever. But what if it was like this? Dear Sarah, every time I look at your pretty blue eyes and your blonde hair, I just feel a rush of emotion that I've never felt before. I love the fact that when you come in every day with your backpack and you look so cute. Okay, so you see how it's very personal? Like, I'm sorry, I'm not good at writing cover letters or love letters. I'm good at cover letters, but not lover letters. But okay, it's very personalized. If you have this generic, thing that could apply to anyone, like it's like those Nigerian oil scams that you get an email and they don't even get your name right, it's not good. It's bad. That's a bad cover letter if it's super generic and if it feels like it was written for anybody. A good cover letter feels like it was written just for me. It was written just for this company. It was written just for this position. And so it's going to be very personalized. Cover letters are lover letters. If it sounds generic, it is gross. It is disgusting. Throw it away. Okay? Now, later in the second segment of this lecture, I'll show you how to make sort of a template, but that is still personalizable. So, because I understand a lot of people are going to say, I'm not going to write a new cover letter for every job I apply. Okay, I know, but we will come up with a way so you can have efficiency, but still personalization at the same time. But for now, you just have to know that cover letters are lover letters. They have to be personalized for them to be good. Okay. Next, principle number 3, effective lead sentences dominate. Now, so here's something from a executive bio cover letter. A lead sentence, remember, is the first sentence of every paragraph. Because remember, when recruiters read stuff, they at least look at the first sentence of whatever you write in every paragraph. So, accomplished in companies of all sizes, from small entrepreneurial startups to the largest multinational corporations, such as General Electric and Exelon. So-and-so career has spanned the globe in multiple international assignments that provide them vast exposure and sensitivity to worldwide cultures and business dealings. It's a long sentence, but it sounds good. With uncommonly strong analytical and financial acumen, blank has originated and executed billions of dollars in M&As, divestitures, and JV opportunities worldwide. And then they list it out. Previously hired initially to support the long-term transaction team and traders managing commercial transactions and customer relationships throughout the Midwestern U.S. for Exelon Generation, blank was promoted to play a vital leadership role in building out the company's newly formed strategy group and in developing a solid pipeline of prospective acquisitions. So these first lines here, and it's not even the full sentence, but just even these first lines grab our attention. They sound strong. They sound like it's not starting off weak and passive. It's saying the strongest thing possible about the person. So you want to have good lead sentences. You don't want to start off with the obvious. So the worst way to start off the cover letter is something like this. Dear John Smith, I'm writing to apply for the position of, no, it's already obvious. We already know that. That's just like starting with an objective. Start strong. Okay, we're going to talk about how to start strong. Principle number 4, use your selling points. We're going to show you in the later lecture segment how to do this. But your selling points come back. Oh, those things we did from the beginning? Yes, they're coming back again. So selling points keep coming back. So hopefully you have your selling points. Hopefully you have them memorized by now. You know exactly why you're qualified for the role that you're applying for, and it's going to work out. Okay, so that's 4 principles right there. Next, let's talk about business writing basics, because there's some things that you have to know. Business writing is not creative writing. And so it's a bit different. It's not writing blogs. It's not writing Facebook posts. It's much different. So we have to keep some certain conventions in mind. First, principle number 1, facts, not feelings. That's the first rule of business writing. We don't talk about feelings. We don't talk about beliefs. We just talk about facts. Here's what I mean. Here's what a version of what a student wrote. As my resume indicates, I feel that I have succeeded. I feel that I've succeeded in providing. Okay. So, comprehensive therapy services to patients, including identifying their goals and needs, uncovering techniques to encourage communication reflection, and maintaining detailed, confidential patient records. I believe that my ability to connect with individuals and establishing trusting relationships with my strong communication. Okay. All right, here's the problem. I don't care about how you feel and what you believe. Employers don't care about how you feel and what you believe. That's capitalism. If you are qualified for the position, then you're qualified for the position, and it's a fact. Think of politicians. Did Barack Obama, when he was running his change campaign in 2008, did he say, I think that I can create change, 2008, and that was the slogan, I think I can make change? No, it just said we're changing stuff. We're building stuff. Did he say, like, I believe we can make change? No, we just make change. Okay? We just do it. We don't believe it. We don't feel it. We just do it. It's facts. You're making the argument that it is a fact that you are qualified for this position. You're not making the argument that you feel like it's a fact. No, it is a fact. Okay? I don't care what you feel. I don't care what you believe. So which one sounds better? This or this? As my resume indicates, I have succeeded in providing comprehensive therapy services to patients, including identifying their goals and needs, uncovering techniques to encourage communication reflection, and maintaining detailed and confidential patient records. My ability to connect with individuals and establishing trusting relationships, along with my strong communication assessment capabilities, position me to thrive at your company. Okay? Notice we get rid of the I believe and I feel. We cut the wordiness, and then automatically it sounds stronger, it sounds more confident, and it sounds like you bring value to the company. So leave out I feel, leave out I believe. The job market is not a place to be humble. If you're qualified, you're qualified. If you're not qualified, you're not qualified. You feeling that you're qualified or you believing that you're qualified doesn't matter. It makes no difference at all if you feel that way or believe that way. It is just whether you are that way. So, what if they reject me? Okay, well that's fine. They reject you. They rejected your argument, and that's okay. Apply somewhere else. Now, principle number 2, no contractions. So this is a big thing with business writing. So what is a contraction? Remember, are not and aren't, okay? Cannot and can't. Okay, so what we're saying is none of this in business writing. So you have to spell out all of it. I don't know. It's just one of those conventions that's just, business writing. We don't talk. It's about being formal. So contractions are very informal ways of talking. They're shortcuts. Usually we use contractions when we're talking about something or we're trying to write in like a creative voice. But this is not creative writing. So you have to spell out your contractions. So there should be no contractions in your cover letter nor in your resume. Number 3, no indents. So when we get to formats of business letters, a lot of times people put an indent at the beginning of paragraphs because you're used to writing papers for college. And yes, in papers for college, you indent. But in business writing, you do not indent. So don't do this. So I'm drawing an X in the circle. Don't indent, just strong left everything. Okay, so this is the strong left format. This is also true of bullet points. I know I didn't put a picture here, but sometimes what students will do is they'll indent their bullet points as well. And they do this in their resume as well. Don't indent your bullet points. Why? Because bullet points are already indented. So here I am drawing bullet points on a trackpad. Okay, so these are my weird looking bullet points. Bullet points are already indented because usually it'll say so I'm just going to draw like a sentence here. And it's like okay. All right, bullet points are already indented because the bullet point, you see the strong left margin here? Your eye can follow the bullet points here. And then there's already an indent between the bullet point and the beginning of the first sentence. Whenever you have bullet points, there's always a pretty large space. So there's already an indent where the letter starts. What you end up doing is if you have, even if this was indented left, so let's say we just put this left here, you would still have a lot of space, so then the eye has to go here. The eye has to then zigzag to get to your spot, whereas here, the eye can just go straight down, and that's what you want. You don't want the eye to have to go super googly left and right all over the place. If the eye can just go like a straight line down, beautiful. So you don't need to indent bullet points nor the paragraphs. Number 4, grammar matters a lot. It matters a lot. It's not just some arbitrary thing. Here's a study from the journal, the Business and Professional Communication Quarterly, 2017. So basically they had some recruiters look at 5 different resume applications, and they showed them with spelling errors and grammatical mistakes. And so they asked 536 professional recruiters to evaluate these application forms with spelling mistakes. And the results showed the presence of spelling errors has the same detrimental impact, that's bad, on the chances of being shortlisted as a lack of professional experience. So, you have grammar mistakes in your resume. That's just as bad as not having enough experience. And then it says the recruiter's spelling skills also moderate their judgment. So if the recruiter's bad at spelling, then you might be okay. But otherwise, if anybody has a decent understanding of English grammar, then they see grammar mistakes, it's just as bad as if you don't have enough experience. So, why are you mad that I forgot comma? Because people get mad about that stuff and you get shortlisted. You don't even get shortlisted, okay? You get kicked off. You get voted off the island because you didn't spell something right. Because the thing is, bad grammar isn't just like an arbitrary grammar Nazi thing. When you have bad grammar in your resume, number 1, it shows that you don't know how to write. But then number 2, it shows that you don't pay attention to detail. Because if you pay attention to detail, you would have proofread that, you would have caught that, and you would have changed it. And when you don't pay attention to detail, that means that you do things in a rush. You do things in a rush means you don't manage your time well. And so you can see all the negative attributions I can derive just from your bad grammar. So you don't want employers thinking those things about you. So you have to commit to quality, you have to commit to proofreading, you have to commit to doing the best work possible, and that means taking the time to do it. Nothing gets built in a day. Da Vinci didn't build anything in a day. The Sistine Chapel wasn't painted in 2 hours before the deadline at 11:59 a.m. The Sistine Chapel took, I think, months for him to do, and it's beautiful. But it didn't take 2 hours. It didn't take 11 o'clock, and he emailed somebody and said, can I have an extension? No, he did it. He took deliberate planning and time. Same with the job. Okay, number 5, no overintensifiers. So in business writing, you don't use exclamation points. You don't say, it was really great to see you, and then an explanation. I have to like point this out because some people use exclamation points in their cover letters, which, yeah, no overintensifiers. Okay, principle number 6, remember the rule of 5. Now, I believe we talked about this in the resume writing lecture. Hopefully we did. But you remember that we want to make sure you still want your cover letter to be sped read, because we don't know what the employer is going to read first when they open your application. Some might read the resume first and then read the cover letter. Some might read the cover letter first and then your resume. We don't really know. We don't know which way it's going to work out, because employers, when they open up their application systems and whatnot, they all do it differently. So we want to be prepared for both circumstances, because you prepare for all scenarios. Just like the US military, you prepare for everything. You prepare for everything here. So this long paragraph here is well written. The problem is it's a long paragraph. So this is 3, 6, 9. This is 10 lines long. This is really intimidating to speed read. Granted, it has a beautiful lead sentence. I like the Sigmund Freud quote. That's great. But there's nothing else I'm going to really feel like speed reading in this paragraph, because it's too long. Remember, when you have these big blocks of text, these huge chunks of text, it's too intimidating to speed read. I'm probably just going to skip over it, and then I'm going to miss your message. So when you have long paragraphs like this, what you should probably do is just break it up into 2. So now it's easier to speed read. Sigmund Freud once said, love and work and love, that's all there is. And then bam, and then the second paragraph. Now this is still 6, but that's okay. Your rule of 5 is just 5, but 6 can be okay at times. Maybe even cut a word here and there and you can make it 5. But see, it's much easier to speed read this because you have 2 lead sentences here, and yeah, that's much easier. So remember the rule of 5. Don't have these long chunk paragraphs. Like I've seen students have like 12-line paragraphs, and I'm like, I'm not going to read that. But if they put it like this, oh, I can read that. It's all visual layout and psychology. Principle number 7, probably the most important principle at all. I would call this the golden principle of cover letters. Minimize I, maximize you. So there are 3 words in the English dictionary. There are 3 words in the English language that get people's attention. Like you can always count on these words to get people's attention. Are you ready? The first word is sex. The second is food. And the third is you. Sex, food, and you. Those are the 3 things that will get people's attention regardless of what you're talking about. Now here's the problem. You really can't talk about sex in a cover letter. Okay, I understand there may be a few jobs related to sex, but let's not talk about that, okay? So you really can't do that. You can't send baked cookies through an ATS system, so you really can't talk about food. So all you got is you. What we want to do in a cover letter is use the word you and your as often as possible, and I and me as less as possible, as infrequent as possible. So here's a version of what a student did. I esteem education needs, identifying strengths, and health needs. My psychology degree includes specialized coursework in bereavement, schizophrenia, depression, anxiety, substance abuse, and other trauma. I aided the treatment of adults and couples in both individual and group environments. I co-facilitated support groups that have taught me communication skills and make me even more qualified for this position. Now, here's the problem with this. It's all me and mine. It's all me and mine. I this, I that, I this, my psychology degree. So once again, we go back to the consumer mentality of the job search, where some people believe they deserve a job. They earned it. My degree makes me qualified, okay? And I deserve it. It's mine, And that's bad, okay? Employers don't care what you think you deserve. Employers don't care what you think you've earned. Employers don't care if you have 10 years experience and see that makes me awesome. They don't care. They don't care about that. Employers care about value added. What value are you going to do for my bottom line? Whatever that bottom line is. What are you going to do for my company? It's not about can you jump over the bar? It's who ice skates the best. That's what we care about. So here's how we can improve this. In accordance with the tender, loving care for home for boys values, that's the company she's applying to, I esteem education needs, identifying strengths, and health needs. My degree in psychology and mental health includes specialized coursework in bereavement, schizophrenia, depression, anxiety, substance abuse, and other trauma, which have prepared me for your home's therapeutic treatment. As the job posting states, and she can even say your job posting states, communication skills are critical in the treatment of adults and couples in both individual and group environments. My proven ability to facilitate support groups and contexts will be beneficial to your clients and organization overall. I would even say and your organization. I'd have a little redundancy there. So you see how she's tying her qualifications to the employer's bottom line. That's exactly what you want to do in a cover letter. Tie your qualifications to the employer's bottom line, whatever that is. Okay, if it's student success, if it's patient health, if it's profits, if it's whatever. Tie the cover letter explicitly to the bottom line and personalize it and use you and your. That is how you persuade people. You don't persuade people by talking about yourself. You persuade people by talking about them. You don't persuade people by talking about yourself. You persuade people by talking about them. Okay, so I clapped on that one so you remember. Okay, so talk about them. Talk about them the whole time. Okay, to review. We talked about cover letter purposes. Why do you have a cover letter? Okay, we talked about 4 reasons. We talked about key principles of cover letters and why you want to make sure you do these things, these particular things in cover letters. And then we talked about business writing basics. Now, remember that it's not creative writing, although we can be creative in certain ways, but we have to still sound formal and professional as we write these letters. So keep that in mind as you write your cover letter. In the next segment of this lecture series, we will actually go into what to write in your cover letter and how to format it and design it so it's effective and also done. I'll see you then.